Hi guys, JoySparkleBs. I'm gonna apologize ahead of time. I've now filmed this 3 times. Something technically keeps happening every time. I don't know if I need a new camera, but issues keep happening. So I'm sorry. I hope I get all the information correct because I'll film it and then just something happens and it's gone, or something dies, or this doesn't work, or it's corrupted. So, okay. I'm gonna be talking about a subject that is highly requested, that honestly is kind of confusing to me. The subject I'm going to be talking about, a lot of people keep requesting, and I honestly don't know why anybody cares, I guess. But then I forget, I had almost 65,000 subs, 15 million views, and a guy named Repsion that did a video all about this subject and got most of it wrong, that got 300,000 views. I think, I want y'all to understand, in my mind, I've still got 1,000 subscribers. I think I've always been in that place. Does that make sense? So it's weird to me that anybody cares about this, but people keep asking and they keep requesting, so I'm going to relent, and I'm going to talk to you today about my current spiritual beliefs. So, I mean, and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to be offensive. I appreciate that people are interested. To me, spirituality is it's different for everybody. It's an ever-changing thing. And for me, it's a very solitary thing that it's weird to me why anybody wants to know. But I guess it's confusing for people because I talked a lot about, how silly religion is and how silly certain sects of religion and spirituality in terms of communities are. But that's because I've been through stuff with it. And I guess, to a lot of people, especially the skeptics, they're all atheists, so it's just a big scandal, which is silly to me, but whatever. So I'll be talking about my current beliefs. And I'm like, where do I begin? Where do I begin with this? I guess I should begin at the beginning. Let's try that. So, oh God, it's hard to even know where to begin, but I'll just try to keep everything together and keep a train of thought going. Okay. So when I was little, I was always fascinated by weird shit. By the odd things, the eccentricities, like the magic of life. Not literal magic, just, wonder and shit. Wonder and shit. I remember when I was 3 years old, I learned what an alien was because I got to watch Alf. And when I learned what an alien was, I was like, holy fuck, you're telling me I have this extended family, all these relatives sitting out in space, just waiting to chill? I'm down. Where are we going? And from then on, I was really obsessed with the concept. I loved it. I just always liked the weird side of things, And now I want to point this out, not evil or dark. Some people are more kind of drawn to darker things. That's not me. And no disrespect to whatever people choose to do. It's just, that's not how I operate. For anybody who's curious, my beliefs are more in the realm of Buddhism, Taoism, and what people would call New Age. I will tell you right now, I still have a lot of those beliefs. A lot of them I've let go of. And I now look at it differently. I think the biggest difference now is my ability to do critical thinking and cut out the bullshit. Where before, I didn't do that as easily, I guess, because nobody had ever taught me to critically think, and it was not something that was instilled in me or something that came natural. It's been a learning progression. So, when I was little, always fascinated, even really young, right? Fascinated by the weird stuff. Even though it scared me, one of my favorite movies was Gremlins. Probably at 4 years old, I shouldn't have been watching that, Mom and Dad. But, yeah. Side note, don't let your children watch shit like Chucky when they're 3 and 4, because it will psychologically scar them. I had parents that let me do, and I don't remember if I put this in the rest of the video, but they let me watch whatever the fuck I wanted. Chucky terrified me because I had so many dolls. So for a few years of my life, I thought shit was gonna kill me in my sleep, legitimately. I had 2 parents that it was just free reign. Once they got divorced, they decided we're not parents anymore. So I had access to everything. Shit, we'd watch horror movies as family movies when I'm 3 and 4 years old. I laugh now, having dated guys with kids and being like, I could never allow them to watch that because their minds can't handle it. They're too fucking fragile. But in my household, everything, including Cinemax, the porn, didn't matter. You can do whatever the fuck you wanted in both households. I didn't see my dad much, but it was basically a free reign attitude, right? So yeah, don't let your kids watch horror movies. Please let them wait till they're 10 or 11, maybe 10 at least. God. And one way it kind of made me an adult early and shaped me to be kind of mature, but on the other end I look back and I'm like, why would you subject your children to that? Bad parenting. Anyways, I digress. So, okay, when I was younger, I'll start with my first round of spirituality, which was church. I grew up Catholic. A lot of Midwesterners grew up Catholic, and in fact, more than that, a lot of the New Agers were Catholic, I've come to find out. The religion never made sense to me. So like, okay, we would be in church, and I was always asking questions. Always, my poor mom. This is what, like, I was a very hyperactive kid, and I think my poor mom. I asked questions nonstop. But it didn't make sense to me. Like most kids, okay, well, first of all, it's weird because they're, on the one hand, it's like, kids ask questions, but then at the same time, a lot of times kids don't critically think about things going on around them too much. They're just more curious on what's happening, not the depth of what's happening. So I asked a lot of questions. I'll get to why I brought that up, but I asked a lot of questions. And one was, the minister kept talking about Jesus. It's God's house. God's Jesus' kid. It's Jesus' house. God's presence is here. God is here. Jesus is in church today. And I could never fucking find him. Where is this magical motherfucker everybody's talking about? So I asked my mom, I'm like, where is this motherfucker? And my mom's like trying to quiet me and stuff because I'm loud, I'm little. But I'm like, Jesus, where are you? Come out, wherever you are. Being like 3 years old. All right, guys, a visitor decided to join. And you jumped and stuff and knocked yourself over, but that's okay. Because you don't mean to. Just get so excited. You're like your mama. Co-host is here, guys. Do you have any input on screaming for Jesus in church? No, she don't care. So I just didn't understand. It baffled me. I'm like, so we're talking about this dude. Apparently his house and he's never fucking here. Well, I got to the point where you guys know, like, okay, the choir up front, right? I think I convinced myself that there was this guy in the choir that had a long beard, or like, a beard, and I convinced myself, well, he's the closest one to Jesus, I guess, must be him. I was looking for some long-haired, bearded hippie, right? And I'd asked my mom, and I think she kind of was like, yeah, just to kind of get me to shut up. So for a while, I thought that was him, and then I found out, a few weeks later it wasn't, and I was like, well, what the fuck is going on? None of it made sense to me, right? But like, the church is very ritualistic. Like, I did this one time for an ex, and we were laughing about it. I can almost cite some of the sermons, like, to a T, because anybody, like the Midwesterners, a lot of us grew up Catholic. Anybody who grew up Catholic knows, like, basically, it's all the same rituals, except you'll have a couple people that read out, like, verses out of the Bible, and the minister goes up and interprets it. But, like, so it's really, really ritualistic. One other quick side story. So one time the Pope was coming to, not the Pope, but some guy that's like higher upper echelon of Catholicism was coming, like from Rome. Some fucking head cardinal or some shit. And it was a big fucking deal. I don't think it was the Pope, because why the fuck would the Pope come to Independence, Missouri? But my understanding was whoever was coming from Rome was doing like a tour of certain churches around the United States or something. So it was like once in every 5-10 year thing. It was a big deal. So we had to go and get all dressed up. And I'm thinking, we're gonna meet Jesus. It's finally, we're partying this motherfucker's house. He's never here, and he's giving us this nasty fucking wafer food. I'm like 3. And here this guy comes in one of those big ass Pope hats, or I'm not saying it's Pope hat, it looks like one of those big pointy hats. And he's got that like ball and incense, and he's doing all this, and he's like in Latin, no, just going in Latin. I don't know what the fuck's going on. And I'm looking at my mom, I'm like, that is not Jesus. Like, I think we've been conned. This is a con man. I thought Jesus was coming. So that always confused me. But like I was talking about, you don't really think about when you're younger, you ask questions about what's going on, but not the depth, right? That doesn't form until you're like 7 or 8, when you start to really kind of have more depth to your questions and opinions, and your ego starts forming. So I think I was like 7 or 8, right? And I'm sitting in church, and they do all the rituals. Like they lift up that nasty plate of saltless crackers, and they do that through him, with him, and him, like that. That whole thing, right? All the glories on it, and this really awful organ music starts, and you gotta sing shit about Christ dying, and Christ is died, Christ is risen, Christ will come again. So that all happens, and it clicks. And then you hear, like, this is my blood, the blood of everlasting covenant, be shed for you and for all, so that my sins may be forgiven. Do this in memory of me. And then they ring some fucking bell, and apparently everybody, I don't know why they still have this practice, because like for disease related, they have a cup full of grape juice that's supposed to symbolize wine, but it's supposed to be Jesus's blood. And when you go get your cracker, everybody drinks from the same cup, the same hundreds of people. Nope, sorry. Now today, Satan or Jesus than not ever, right? So anyways, when I was little, like 6 years old, you go through like communion. And that's like your rite of passage to go eat the nasty cracker. And we're little, none of us know what the fuck we're doing, right? So I was at that point I could eat the cracker. And it dawned on me when I heard all of this. It clicked. And I all of a sudden realized, oh my God, we're eating people. And not only are we eating people, not only are we being cannibals, we are cannibalizing this guy who's supposed to be so awesome. Why the fuck we eating people to begin with? And why would we eat this guy who's so amazing apparently? It freaked me out. And then was the best of it, you know, Christ has died, Christ has risen, Christ will come again. And I went, this guy's a zombie. And even though it freaked me out and it fascinated and intrigued me, it then in my little mind made sense why he didn't show up. I'm like, oh, he's like a zombie. I guess it's the same as vampire rules. He can't really come out during the light. So like, that's why we never see him. He's like in a coffin in the basement. This is what I came up with in my little mind. And so the whole point is to say, like, I was always questioning and spiritually seeking and wanting to know more and wanting to know things and wanting to know answers and always curious as to why all these adults around me kept doing like hypocritical weird shit that didn't make sense and didn't really answer the questions to the answers they put forth from my other questions. so yeah, that was me when I was little. And I was also like, okay, then like my fascination for the weird stuff kept growing, right? Okay, who of the baby boomers and my generation remember you're walking in the grocery store, like the, oh my God, what's it called? Like to leave, like the aisle to leave, the register. You're walking towards the register and you know, they have all those like the racks of promotional items next to them. Who remembers Weekly World motherfucking News? Remember? It was a magazine that was it was newspaper. Like it was a newspaper, it was like newspaper material, but it was a magazine. And on the cover was always something fucking crazy. Like they had this whole series about something named Bat Boy who apparently would show up places and wreak havoc and leave. Or this crazy picture of some kid that looked like a bat with these crazy teeth going, ah, it was weird. And inside, it was just nonstop crazy story after crazy story, most of them probably made up. And anyways, I begged my grandmother, and at 8 years old, I got a weekly subscription to Weekly World News, and I read it cover to cover. The ones that fascinated me the most, I would say the stories that fascinated me were the ones about aliens getting humans pregnant, because I was like, is that a thing? Can I have an alien boyfriend one day? Like, that's the shit that fascinated me. But as a weird kid, I also loved, you know those like 50-cent dollar little tiny books they have at the checkout? I don't know if they do this anymore, but like, it would be these little books about like, you know, little pocket-sized books about like numerology or astrology or angels or, you know, like seeing auras, just weird shit. So I'd always beg my mom and I always get these little weird books and I'd read them cover to cover and take them with me places. I loved that stuff. I loved ghost stories. I loved abduction stories. Like I was just fascinated by the whole thing, right? But, oh, and there's another thing I got really involved with when I was older, a little bit older, like in 10, maybe 8, 9, 10, was I liked Ouija boards because I liked the idea of being to talk to ghosts. Because I was like, oh, friends I haven't met. And maybe sadly enough, like it's kind of sad saying it, it's because I didn't really have a lot of friends growing up. And when my mom and my dad got divorced, they decided they didn't want to be parents anymore. I give my dad a little bit more credit because we didn't see him often, but when we did, he would take us to do really fun, like family things. Where my mom stopped everything family related unless it was like going out to eat. But otherwise we didn't do any family activities and I was left all by myself all the time. So it could have been like partial fascination, partial loneliness as a little kid. That's sad. It's like socially neglected. But, so anyways, I was fascinated with Ouija boards because I wanted to have like ghost friends. So weird. Okay, so, oh shit, I lost my train of thought. Where was I going with that? Where was I? Oh, okay. One thing I remember was like a pivotal point for me that really started to shape some of my beliefs. I was 10 going on 11 and I was at my grandma's house because my grandma half raised me because shitty parents. And this thing, I think it was on like 60 Minutes or 2020, I don't remember, but something came on about this woman who died, went to heaven, and came back. I was in the zone. I was fascinated. I wanted to know everything. So she legally died, had this experience, and came back. And her experiences were amazing. And when I was little, there was just something at the core of my being that said, things aren't the way my parents are telling me. It's not that they aren't that way as well, but there's more to this. There's gotta be like magic and wonder and mystery in the world. We can't have figured out everything. I just knew that there was all these awesome things that we had no idea. I couldn't, it's like I was a mature kid on the one hand, but on the other hand, I couldn't put away the ideals that are supposed to be childish because something in me said there's something to this, right? So seeing that woman talk about this experience was kind of my first real confirmation, aside from Weekly World News, which even back then I knew a lot of it was silly, you know, it's just fun. It was my first real confirmation that there's something else out there. There's something else going on, and I want to know what it is. And she wrote a book, I believe it was called Embraced by the Light, and I begged my grandma, we gotta get the book, we gotta get the book. So we ended up having to go to a couple libraries, because it's Midwest, it's not like they have a lot of those books, and we found those books. Or it was a book. And I read it cover to cover a couple times, and I was fascinated, just fascinated, absolutely fascinated. So it shaped, it was almost like the culmination of all these weird eccentricities and fascinations with the weird stuff, cultivated by seeing that and going, that, I want that, what is that? Like, she got to go to heaven. What's heaven like? What's that? Like, I was, fascinated. But I ended up going through puberty, and as I went through puberty, some of those fascinations, as does, when you're a kid, I was always still fascinated, but I was kind of obsessed with them. It died off a little bit only because, all of a sudden you start menstruating and there's boys and, socially, and you become self-conscious. And I was always still weird though. I was always a weird person. I was this oddity where I was the weird kid, but I also fit in with a lot of people. I was kind of accepted as being a little bit odd. Maybe it's because I'm just really social in certain settings, in other settings not. And I had some trials and errors, but anyway, I was 12 years old. So this was maybe 2 years later, right? But again, that's a big transition from 10 to 12 and having a period. And I had my first big spiritual experience. I'm not going to talk about it yet. Maybe I never will. I'm not really comfortable, but it showed me that it was right. There's more to everything going on around us than what we see, at least from my perspective. Not telling y'all what to do or how to live your life. It's just what happened to me. And I wanted to know more and understand about, itch. I got 2 itches. Okay. I wanted to learn more and understand about the experiences I was having, because I was totally fascinated, totally enthralled. And I just realized a lot about the world and about people. And I'll talk about it a little more later, but then I had an experience when I was 14. This one I'll be a little more open with. Basically, it's crazy because it wasn't like I was thinking about it much. I'd completely forgotten about the experience at 10, but I had an experience through one of my first meditations where I was taken to what I think people consider heaven is, and it changed my life. We'll talk about that later in the video, but I just wanted to kind of give you a progression of what kind of shaped my life, right? And so as I started having these spiritual experiences and realizing who I am as a spiritual person, and also I was very alone in it. So having some odd experiences in the heart of Bible fucking Belt. We're talking, we have, I don't know if I explained this, but let me explain. The area of the country I'm from, sorry if I'm repeating this, because again, I've had to refilm this. We had the Mormon headquarters is not in Salt Lake City, bitches. You might have thought so. It's in Independence, Missouri. You can look that up. There's a big, huge spiral church in the Independence Square downtown in Independence, Missouri. Also, Harry Truman's from there. So we dropped an atomic bomb and fucked up Japanese. Yay! That's awful. God, that's awful. That's where I'm from. God, not that I'm trying to get into politics or war. Just awful that people got hurt on both sides. Everything's awful with war. But, so We had Pentecostals and the Southern Baptists. They are not a fun bunch. Not a fun bunch at all. And some of their offshoots and their crazier offshoots, like let's fucking wrangle some snakes during Sunday sermon to overcome the serpent. Fucking crazy. I say that, but then my beliefs are like, I want to meet an alien, so who the fuck am I to say, right? Who the fuck am I to say that? Shit. It's funny when I watch myself getting judgmental, realizing how weird I am, and I'm like, hey, calm down, ego. You ain't shit. You ain't fucking shit. But, so we had all of those, and then on top of that, okay, have you guys ever seen the movie Jesus Camp? That was filmed in Lee Summit, Missouri. That's about 15 minutes away from Independence, Missouri. Do you guys know who Westboro Baptists are? They're the ones that always are, like they hold up the signs, God hates F words for gay people, slurs, and God hates military people. They're always picketing funerals and whatnot. Yeah, they were 30 minutes away. I was in this very extreme religious area, so being somebody odd in spirituality and not like these people, like I was very, I'll use the word intuitive. It caused some friction as I started exploring my spirituality, because at least back then these people were a little less than forgiving for anything that looked different. Because in their words, you know, the Bible states that anything of the nature of like what they would say like psychic, which I hate that fucking word, because people think of Miss Cleo. That's why I like the word intuitive. But they say things like anybody who, how do you put that? Anybody who's a psychic is evil, is of the devil. You're of the devil. Following the devil. Go back. Jesus, you need to. I love it. I remember I'd be in school, like, and when people found out I was kind of looking into things and spiritually seeking and researching, I remember they'd come up to me, they'd ask me this question, it would drive me nuts. Like, the girls would come up and they'd go, so I heard that you don't like Jesus. And I was like, well, that's not true. And they'd be like, so do you believe in Jesus? And I'd challenge them on it, and I'm like, what do you mean believe? Do you believe in him? And what I realized is when they asked me this, they didn't understand what they were asking me. They were just regurgitating what church told them. And I said, do I believe he existed? Yeah. They're like, no, but do you believe? And I was like, I'm gonna need you to clarify. I believe there was an awesome guy that existed a long time ago who tried to help humanity, who was gifted. And I believe there were others that did the same thing at different points. Yeah, I believe he existed. But do you believe in him? And finally one of them said, do you worship him? And I said, well, what does worship mean? Well, do you worship him? I said, well, think about what you're saying. Are you saying that, do I give everything over, including my free will and all my mind and my thought process, over to this invisible idea of somebody that may or may not have existed that you don't have evidence for? No, I don't do that with anybody. And they would get really offended. Well, how can you not worship Jesus? And I was like, well, how can you? Because the Bible. And like we'd go back and forth, and I'd be like, so what's the Bible? The Bible tells you, and it's God's Bible. What does that mean? And they never could explain it, because I don't think they'd ever thought in depth what that meant at that time, being 13 and 14 years old. Most 13 and 14 years old don't. I just was an odd person. So I would always challenge them on this stuff, and it would really upset them. Say, if you don't believe in Jesus, then you believe in Satan. I was like, what? And I was just like, I'd get so frustrated. I was like, oh my God, what is this conversation? What is this? But yeah, we'd go round and round with it. We'd go round and round about, I'm like, it's God's book. Yeah, it's God's book. God wrote it. God wrote it. Yeah. Pretty sure the apostles, it was like letters back and forth to them and kings and all kinds of people. No, but God wrote it. No, that was humans. Well, but God made them. Okay, like, you know, then we'd argue back and forth between like, okay, you say this is in the Bible, but then what about the book of Edith? Like, you know, like what about, Judith, I'm foggy. There was a book in the Bible, I think it was Judith or Edith, that was taken out, that was very, very interesting in terms of like feminism. They took out books of the Bible and stuff. I'm like, how do you know over time this wasn't edited or altered? How can you prove that? Because it's God's book, and God wouldn't allow that to happen at God's book. Like, we would just go back and forth, and it was really frustrating. Oh God. By the way, if you are a Christian, I'm not putting you down. If you believe, the best person I've ever met claims Christianity, and that's my roommate. And he's a wonderful human being. I'm not putting down Christianity. I'm putting down the area of the country where I came from, and the kids, like, and trying to laugh at, like, the mentality of some of the kids that age. I'm not putting down what you believe in. Please understand. As long as you're not an asshole, you're not being put down. But yeah, it was interesting. It was very, very interesting growing up like that. As I got older, I became, I'm gonna get a lot of shit for this, but I'll talk about it. I mean, here's the thing, I've talked about this before. I love it when I choke on air. You will never, hold on. Thank you, throat. You will never fear, I can't talk, hold on. I need some water, what is wrong with me? I think that's better. You will never feel dumb. You will never feel dumber. I can't get the words out. The word, God, articulate. You will never, I still can't do it. You will never feel dumber. There we go. You will never feel dumber. I have to really articulate and form those words. Then when you choke on your own air, which is what I essentially did. I remember as I grew older, I became like more and more intuitive. Like I've talked about, I would have dreams of stuff and it would happen. Like I could feel what other people were feeling, like very empathic. You know, I felt very, very different than everyone else. And I couldn't really put a finger on it. Well, like, I mean, there were, like, I'll put it this way, because I don't want to talk too much about it yet. I might one day, because these are really personal experiences. But, you know, I had some experiences around the ages of, like, 12 that shaped, that started me on a, like, before a lot of these were fascinations, but then around 12, I had some, I'll call them spiritual experiences, and I'll talk about it one day. I had spiritual experiences that started me on the path of really seeking. That's where I dove into, like, studying. I was always really drawn to Buddhism and Taoism and Hinduism and all these different Eastern religions. Understand, I'm from Independence, Missouri. I'll talk about this one day. Independence, Missouri is like a crazy cultural Bible Belt spot, meaning we have a big Southern Baptist population. We have a big Pentecostal population. We then, on top of all of that, we are the Mormon headquarters of the world. You think it's Salt Lake, it's not Salt Lake if you look it up, Mormon headquarters. In fact, I'll talk about this one day. Downtown Independence, they have this big spiral screw, huge church, and it's a Mormon church. We have a huge Mormon population. And I'm not saying this to disrespect anybody's religion, but understand, I came from an area of the country that is highly, highly religious, highly, highly conservative. I mean, the 20 years ago conservative, right? When it's like all gays should go to hell kind of conservative. And they weren't nice about it. They were pretty mean. So I became an outcast really, really quickly in the situation. Simply, a lot of it simply because like people saw me studying and researching things or talking about, you know, life on other planets. Funny enough, there were some Mormons that were making fun of me about my belief in aliens, and later I realized that a lot of their beliefs stem from shit on other planets, and that just blew my mind. Maybe I'll do a video on this one day. And by the way, no disrespect to the Mormons, like, you know, some people are assholes when they're younger, but as we got older, like, we had a very big Samoan, or not Muslim, I said Muslim, what was it? We had a very big, Mormon, sorry, not Muslim, Mormon. We had a very big Samoan Mormon population, and shout out to all those people, like, they are some of the nicest people. Like, when you think of people who are Christian and trying to do good in their community, that's these motherfuckers. Family oriented, like, I love a fucking Samoan. They're great people. We just had we had a big Samoan community, and they're just wonderful. In fact, I dated one when I was 12. I know, scandalous. Actually, back then it was kind of scandalous, like, parents frowned upon that. Like, we had race wars and stuff, like race wars. It's not wars, but we had race fights and stuff break out in our school sometimes. Like, I was in the sticks where I went to school. It was like surrounded by farms, I'm not kidding. So, come here, baby. Come here. What you doing? Are you sniffing? Are you sniffing? What you sniffing? Well, come here. You want to collab? I think we're going to have a collab party. Come here. Can you say hi? Can you say hi? Can you kiss? No. She's very selective with kisses. Sometimes she'll kiss you to death, but if you ask, she'll do this. She's so cute. You're just the cutest one. Yeah, oh, hold on. You got this, hold on. You got this in your eye, or it's about to go in your eye. There we go. Okay. We gotta cut that hair. We gotta cut that hair. She has like, the hairs are like going like this in her eye, or like near her eye, and I'm always trying to pat it down. We just have to cut, I think we just have to snip that because it always goes up. I don't want it to bother her little eye. There she goes. Anyway, she came to say hi. Okay, so sorry, this is gonna be, like I said, this is gonna be a really long, rambly video because this is gonna take a while. And good morning, somebody else just woke up. It's 2 p.m. and somebody just woke up. Good morning. Good morning, Miss May. That's Macy, her name is Macy May. Good morning, Miss May. So I might have to cut this short because, or I might have to do like, come back because little puppers just woke up and we'll need to go outside. The oldest one, Macy, she's 13 and she will sleep till 4 p.m. I'm not even kidding you. She uses her waking hours for when roommate is home because that is her boyfriend and that is her man, and y'all better respect it. Okay, so where was I at? So yeah, I grew up in this highly conservative religious area, so it made me very much an outcast to be a spiritual seeker and to talk about these things. And as I got older, I felt more and more alone. Like I just felt like I never met anybody who liked the weird stuff or looked at things and felt like me. Like we had a few people who were like Wiccans and pagans in our school, and I respect the religion. Like I studied that too. It's not for me. Like it's just it's something I realized. But you know, they're similar to the New Age stuff. It's just like the whole like kind of casting spells and stuff. I'll tell you how I felt about it, and no disrespect to any pagans or Wiccans, this is just how I felt. I didn't ever get involved in that. Like I remember we had Wiccans and pagans who were like, join our coven or whatever, and I was like, I'm good, thanks. And I was friends with them. Like I was friends with like everybody. I would mingle with all the groups of people at school because I'm just a talker and I love people. But I was never I'm trying to word this the right way. Like what I at least I saw from not just studying the religion, but the people around me was like, and by the way, they're teenagers. They're wanting to cast like love spells and do stuff like that. And I remember even like being like, what, 13 and 14, probably like 13 and 14. Yeah. Like 7th grade is when I started meeting a lot of, you know, those types of kind of odder people like that. Well, they were odd for my area, right? My area of the world. I think Wiccan and pagan is kind of considered a little bit odd everywhere, you know, but like, especially like where I'm at. In fact, back then they were called the freaks. Like we didn't really have that many gothic people. They were just all lumped together, or like emos. They were all just lumped together and called the freaks. The freakers and stuff. And so but they were always really interesting people, so I would hang out with them a lot, but I, you know, intermingled with everybody. And in the process, you know, they would talk to me like, and say, you know, you should join this or do that and blah, blah, blah. And what I always felt was like anything that is going to go against somebody's free will or influence somebody's free will doesn't feel right to me. And I always stuck by that. That's why even like with work, except for maybe a couple times that I very much regret, things you learn as you get older, I tried to always be careful with any contracts I took on or doing sales work. Like, and it was because people would always be like, oh my God, you'd be great at sales, or I would do a sales job and do really well at it in certain areas. Like if it's like I'm marketing and I can sell you a beverage, it's a $2, $3 beverage, I don't care. But, you know, I didn't ever want to do anything big in sales because it's like, if it's a home or car, you know, or something that's thousands of dollars, yeah, you can make money, but I don't want to convince you to do something that may not be for your best interest. But the whole gig is for me to impose on you to do what I want for my best interest, not yours. And so I'm always really careful about anything I think that would inflict on somebody's free will or promoting something I don't believe in. Like I said, I've done it a couple times. I've regretted it, very much regretted it. But I digress. Okay, so as I got older, I really wanted to just seek out more people like me. And that is around the time, maybe at college age, I found out about the term, oh, I cringe, Indigo children. And it seemed like at the time, in my young brain, a perfect fit for how I felt about the world. And keep in mind, when I was young, I didn't have, like, because Moral says, deductive reasoning. Motherfucker, I'm sorry. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I'll put it up one day, it's funny. Moral says he knows facts, he has facts because of his deductive reasoning. It's funny, but I didn't have like critical thinking skills. So it's almost like if something felt right to me, like intuitively, or if something felt good, like not just good, like, ooh, ice cream, I like it, but like if I felt like something was right in my soul, I would go with it and just jump headfirst into it. without looking at the logic and reasoning side, because that part of myself and my brain I had never developed, and neither did anybody else. Hold on, little bitch has got to go outside, and potty times comes first. Potty times comes first. That was a lot of S's. That was a lot of pluraling that didn't need to be there. Okay, hold on, I'll be right back. Sorry if I'm off center a little bit. Actually, we didn't have to go outside. I don't know if you can see. You can see the bottom right here, but somebody just woke up and she just wanted some attention and love. That's what happens sometimes. What happens is if I start filming, because she will sleep until 4 p.m. I'm not even kidding, 4 or 5 p.m. Like, older dogs like this who are 13, because we asked the vet, we're like, is this normal? We're like, yeah, sometimes they'll only be awake like 4 or 6 hours, which, you know, to me or probably everybody else sounds ridiculous, but that's, I guess, how they are. So she'll sleep all day and she saves her waking hours for when roommate gets home, because that is her boyfriend. You better fucking respect it, not get in her way of being with her man. That is her boy. It's really cute. But yeah, so she didn't have to go out. She just actually just wanted some love. So you can get some love. So another mini co-host today. But okay, so where did I leave off at? I think I was saying that I was just wanting to meet more people like me. I felt really alone in the world. Again, this was during a time where, like, I live in a highly conservative area. Do you remember when, like, people villainized the Dixie Chicks? Y'all remember that? Like, it was my area of the country. I believe it was like Q104 is the radio station that started the whole, like, they're not patriotic because they spoke out about Bush. And then they started burning their CDs and basically blacklisted them from everything. You know, I just felt really alone. Like, I remember I did 1 year of college and going to college, and I was always told, wait till you get to college, you're gonna be all these intellectuals and weird people and like minds. And I got there and it was just a bunch of kids wanting to get drunk all the time. All the time. Like, and I remember specifically, like, I was in maybe I should do stories from college, because I did have a really fun year. But I remember specifically I had a psychology class, because, like, my goal was I wanted to try to get 3 degrees in like 6 or 7 years, which I laugh now. I'm like, that would have been fucking insane and impossible. But I was a type A personality, and I really wanted a degree in child psychology. I think at the time I didn't realize how much work was going to go into psychology, but I started taking, I took a basic psychology class, and in the psychology class, I remember they talked about, like, intuition and psychic phenomenon as being completely fake. And it was like within the first month of being in college, and I spoke up and I was like, but here's some research and some studies. And me and the professor, I think maybe we went back and forth for like 5 minutes on it. And I wasn't like mean, but I was, like, it wasn't like a big heated debate, but giving info. And I remember everybody in the class was so pissed and irritated that I spoke up, even though this was supposed to be a class of free discussion, because they wanted to get out early because they needed to go drink. It was like basically a bunch of pre-med students in there who were just taking the course because it was a prerequisite, let's go get drunk. And I remember after that being like, okay, I get it now. Like, college is not what I thought it was going to be. And it might be because I was, in Kansas City. It might be because of that. It could be several things, but it could be literally just the time of, like, the era I was in, but I felt alone. I've never drunk. I've at one point gotten tipsy is what I'm told. Like, and this was 2-3 years ago. But I've never been drunk. I don't like to drink. I don't like anything about it. And it was just, I felt really alone. And so when I found out about this term, I cringed. Indigo children. I saw, I read these books and I was like, oh my God, this is me. It describes me to a T. Like the traits. They have like all these different traits about you're highly sensitive and highly intuitive and artistic, and you feel like you have a mission to help the world and you want to help people. You want the planet to be better. And I was just like, fuck yes, these are my people. Like in my mind, these are my people, right? So I'm going along with everything, and I get the books, like Jan Carroll and Lee Tober, I believe. And a lot of people don't understand what the Indigo thing is. It's not a church. It's not even really a community. There's no meetup. There's no phone call. It's literally an idea that was put out by a psychiatrist, I think like in the early 70s, where the psychiatrist is like, I see the aura of the children coming in now. It's indigo. This is what this means. That's it. That's all it is. Like, and it's funny that people have made such a big deal. It's basically an idea and a list of other ideas off that idea. And it did really bother me, Repsion's video, because he put out some kind of defamatory shit stating that I, believe that kids who have ADHD or autism or on the spectrum shouldn't get medical help. and which is just absolutely ridiculous. Now, here's what I will tell you. Back then, I was somebody that, I didn't have any critical thinking skills, and we're talking 14 years ago, mind you, 14 years ago. So if something felt right in my gut, like if I got a gut intuition or a gut feeling or just like something moved me, it was fact to me. Does that make sense? And I would present it as such, because I didn't have, as Moral says, deductive reasoning. If you guys don't know what that is, we'll talk about it later. See, some of my video cut out. I don't know if I said some of this before, so if this is repeating, I apologize. But I didn't have critical thinking skills. I didn't add logic to it. Nobody ever taught me how to do that stuff. It wasn't until my late 20s that was something I started to really cultivate, if that makes sense. So I really wanted to meet like-minded people. I really did. I started seeking them out. And that is part of how I got a really big break early in my career in going to France and living in Paris. Meeting like-minded people like that. And I'll tell you, I had a lot of fun adventures. I need to do a video series on this, because there's so many ideas I'm having. Like I was thinking about talking about spiritual men in the New Age community and what they're like, because they all have like similar traits and they can all be wackadoos in their own way, but the women are also fucking crazy. Like everybody's crazy basically. But let me tell you what happened and where that changed. And people have talked about this, but when I was in France, wanted to do an Indigo documentary. Never happened. Never happened. But I'm really good at making contacts. I started reaching out, making contacts, and I got in contact with a lot of the big players in the New Age world. We'll have to do a story one day about Doreen Virtue. If you guys don't know who that is, oh my God. She's one of the leading New Ager people. She has made millions off of like selling and hawking tarot cards and angel books and like getting a fairy certification, whatever the fuck that is, and then turns around and goes, yeah, so it's all bullshit, and I realized I'm Christian, so don't use that stuff anymore. I need to do a video about this one day, like, because it's ridiculous. But what I learned, especially from dealing with Doreen's people back then, was that the New Age thing, it was really quickly. It was like, so by like 19, I was really into this idea. By 22, 23, I said, I'm done with the New Age stuff. And the reason is, it's like, even though there's no church or anything, there was nowhere to, there's no congregation or you go anywhere. The majority of the people that I met who claimed to be New Agers drove me nuts. Like, in different ways. Over time, they just really, really drove me nuts. I'm trying to think of like some specific examples. I might go back around to that idea, but like, there was so much no logic that it was almost like they weren't people. Like you couldn't have an actual conversation with them, which made me have to look at myself and be like, oh my God, am I like this? The big thing though, the big turnoff for me, this was it. Like the people were full of shit. Like they were hypocritical. Like everybody, like the New Agers, especially the ones that just start out, what happens is if you have some spiritual experience where you have some realization, I'm not saying you should, but if you do, like that you are love and everything is love and you have this wonderful divine moment, you feel like it's your job to go teach everybody, which is why I get so irritated when that preachy side of me comes out, because I don't mean for it to. It's like, it's unconscious. Like I don't realize I'm doing it until later. That's why I'm always like, I don't want to be preachy. I hope I'm not being preachy. You got an itch? Yeah, somebody's got an itch. Oh, somebody got a bad itch. Now we're gonna dig, so sorry if somebody needs to, no, we're done. Collapse and done. So yeah, I don't wanna be that preachy person. I don't wanna be the person that I was before, and it's just really hypocritical. And that's what I realized about a lot of the people that I met. This is just like church. It's just like church for people who think they're magical. And I'm not saying that like, people can't feel that way. I still believe there's a lot of beauty in like magicalness that exists. I don't mean like casting spells, even though that's your thing, that's fine. I mean like the beauty and magic and wonder of like being alive, of mysteries, of just the beauty of life, right? But these people were just really hypocritical, and it just was so reminiscent of everything I saw within the people who were mainly Christian growing up, And I got very dissuaded, but here was the big thing. All the big players I talked to about this, God, I wonder if I still have some of those emails saved between those people. Like, I think it was Lee Carroll who I was writing back and forth with about interviews and stuff. But a lot of these big players, I realized something. It was all business. It was all money-making schemes. Now, here's the thing. I don't know if I would say scam, because if they believed in what they were doing, then it's not a scam. Does that make sense? Like, okay, so for instance, people have talked about this. So I wrote 2 articles for a now defunct, what was it, like, planetlightworker.com, and what was it, childrenofthenewearth.com, which was, and it's a tech issue day. Sorry about that. So, okay, so there was planetlightworker.com and childrenofthenewearth.com, and Children of the New Earth, like, these are terms I have to explain. A light worker, they called it, like, a lot of times in the New Age stuff, they'll be like, meditate and focus on love and light and love and light. They always talk about this light word, and it's supposed to be like, light is supposed to be like, it's supposed to symbolize knowledge and truth and like light around Jesus Christ and auras and stuff. It gets really weird, but being a light worker, again, not a religion, not a church, it's just a term for people who feel that they are here to spread love and light and help to the planet, basically. That it, like, and there's a little more to it, but like it's a very loose-based terminology from my understanding. And then we all know the Indigo children thing. By the way, I want to really strongly put this out there. I'm going to say it again, because in case people don't hear me, if your kid is sick in any way, go get your kid medical help, period. Whether it's ADHD, spectrum, or anything else, go the medical route. Go the medical route. If the medical route does not work for you and you've exhausted every other option, then try alternative. That's what alternative is for, in my opinion. So just in case, let's be very, very clear on this, because Repsion like to put a lot of BS about this one. But okay, so I wrote these 2 articles, and I remember in it, like, I'm trying to remember, because again, 14 years ago, and I have fibromyalgia now, but if I remember correctly, like, anybody in the world of, like, you know, this kind of world of stuff, you know, that was always like, how do I put this, like, you were wanting to help other people, so you wanted to, like, do, like, sessions with people on intuition and stuff. And so I remember at the very bottom, I think it was like for a consultation with me call, and of course I never got somebody, and I never really wanted anybody. It wasn't something that I really wanted to do. It was just like one of those things that you're supposed to do. And I could just do series after series about this type of thinking in these people, but because people are always like, well, if you took money for it, you're a charlatan. Well, that didn't happen. I never had a fucking client, ever. It was just something I put at the bottom, because this is what you're supposed to do as you're getting into this world. And this is also the part that disillusioned me. And it disillusioned me because when I started talking to the big players, you know, the people who created this, I realized it was all about money. It was all about money. I was frustrated because we had a generation of people, my generation, who were having a very difficult time in society. And when I say that, like, back then I thought it was Indigo kids, you know, that's how I looked at it. Now I look at it as everybody, you know, struggling financially, struggling because things are too expensive, jobs don't pay enough. And so my frustration, and people being sensitive and how to deal with that, my frustration was, I was like, you made all this money off of people like us. This was how I thought of it back then, by the way. People like us. I separated myself from, like, people versus, I'm an Indigo back then. That's how I thought. Don't think that way now. And I was like, yet you've done nothing with the millions of dollars to actually help the people you made the money off of. And watching how money-oriented they were over me just wanting to do an interview was when I really stepped back. And I was just like, I think I'm done. I remember this one time, there was a woman who's like bestseller. I won't ever give out who she is or say anything, but really nice woman. But I remember I was working with somebody, a spiritual thing, and they were trying to get funding for a really cool, really awesome project. And so I went to this contact I knew, and I say, hey, listen, I hope this doesn't sound weird. I'm not hitting you up for money. But I'm asking, do you know anybody within the spiritual communities, anybody who that do investing, like angel investing, that sort of thing? And I remember the person got really kind of offended by it. And to this day, like, I could understand if I came across weird, but I remember being like writing it out, trying to be super, super respectful, because I was like, I don't want to seem like I'm asking you for money, because I wasn't. I was like, I'm asking if you know of any context or have anywhere to guide me. And this, again, somebody who's made millions of dollars off of this. And got really weird and kind of offended, and we never spoke again after that. And that was the nail in the coffin. I was already on the progression of, I don't like what I'm seeing, and that was the nail in the coffin for me, where I was like, I'm done. I'm done with these bullshit people. This is bullshit. I thought this was about bettering ourselves and helping one another, and that's not what I am seeing. And now all the new agers I meet are crazy asses, you know, like all of that. So even though I still kept my own spiritual beliefs, I stepped away from doing anything like in terms of wanting to build community. And when I say that, I mean like talk to people online. That's basically what it was, like, you know, online forums and things. And so there was no meetup really or anything. But I digress. God, I have stories about this for days. So I dove into the world of business. I still kept my beliefs. I just kept a lot more private about them. And then I lived in 2 different areas of the country, and it really opened my eyes. So coming from a very conservative place, and then I traveled around the world. I then lived in Seattle, Washington, which my heart is in the Northwest. I love the Northwest. It's so fucking beautiful up there. I would go move there in a heartbeat if I could. In fact, that's one of the places I would love to move to or have a place. Like, that was one of my dream places. And then I got sick because it's just so pretty up there. And then also Boulder, Colorado. And people kept telling me, Boulder's a hippie town. It's a college hippie town. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. I hated it. I hated every moment of it. Because what happens in a lot of this new ager shit, you can't have a conversation. Because it becomes this subtle form of manipulation where nobody takes responsibility. So like, let's say somebody stole your sandwich out of the refrigerator. I'm just giving you an example. And you'd be like, hey, you go to the person, can you not do this? And they'd be like, but it's all about sharing and community, right? It's like, well, yeah, but maybe I have a specific health issue or this, that, and the other, and that's something I put my work into, so please don't share that. But if we're brothers and sisters, we should be sharing, right? Right, but I have to take care of myself. But in the process, you should take care of everybody else just as I take care of you. Because if I am love and you are love, then I am you and you are me. And in the end, it's all sharing reciprocity anyways. And then float off. Like, that's what dealing with these people was like. And I was just like, I can't. No. And it drove me nuts. It drove me nuts to see such lack of logic, that there was zero responsibility, and watching people be very, very irresponsible. Again, story time's another day. And this was the path of me seeing the bullshit and seeing the hypocriticalness. And so over time, I decided spirituality is more of a singular thing for me. It is a personal thing for me. However, I always sought out spiritual relationships with people, like relationships of depth, and that is what creates depth for me. I'm not saying that should for you. That's what creates the depth of relationship for me. And oh my God, all the spiritual men I met had so many fucking issues. I mean, I had issues too. I had issues up the fucking wazoo, but you know, it's just made it impossible. Again, I need to like write this down. I'm gonna watch this. Y'all in the comments, write down how many video ideas I've had in this, and if you guys want, I'll do a whole series on this. So, I just got more and more reclusive with this stuff and not wanting to find other people or kind of find community in any sense of the feeling or the word. And over time I did have, you know, some spiritual friends, and I do have people that are spiritually like-minded I still talk to this day, and we're very close. Roommate was one of the first relationships that wasn't based off spirituality. Best relationship I've ever had. Wonderful human being, as you guys know. Not without his faults and flaws, but a good, like, he, again, is the definition of when you think of what a Christian should be, that's roommate, in my opinion. By the way, people who are new, roommate means boyfriend. But I just realized that the best way I can be of help to people was not to go around trying to make friends of similar mindset. It was to better myself and get right with me. And I went on a very long solo journey, and this is where I had several years of being very reclusive and very private. I mean, not reclusive, like I wouldn't go out and do things and hang out with people, but just like on social media and just talking about beliefs or a lot of just things about me personally. I got very, very private. So that's why it was funny going on YouTube and then being the exact opposite. But you know, I was sick, I wasn't thinking clearly, and I was like, you know what, I got nothing to lose at this point because I don't know if I'm gonna live, so fuck it, might as well. But that leads to the question, sorry, there's a lot of lead up to this. What are my beliefs now? Well, I will tell you, I'm not gonna go in extreme detail, but I will tell you what I believe. I believe when we die, that there is an afterlife. I believe this because I had an experience with that. when I was 14. I had one experience when I was 12 and one experience when I was 14. I've talked a little bit about this in videos. The experience was, one of my first meditations I ever did, I was taken, I mean, I was obviously here, sitting here, but I was meditating, and some part of me went somewhere that was, I thought was what, it would describe what people considered I've heard heaven to be, if that makes sense. Beautiful place, beautiful place. In fact, little side story, one thing I think really influenced this was, I remember a book and a story that changed my life was called Embraced by the Light. I think that's what it was called. I was 10, and I saw this interview with a woman who said I died, went to heaven, and came back. And I was fascinated. And I remember I saw she had a book, and I made my grandma like, Grandma, we have to go get the book. And so we looked it up, and we had to go to a couple different libraries, I believe, because we're at like out in the middle of nowhere. They didn't have that book a lot of places, if I remember right. And we got the book, and I just read it front to back and loved it. But you know, people's just being in Catholic religion and hearing what people think heaven is, I had this experience, I'll talk about it one day, I'm not ready to yet, because it's a very sacred thing for me, where I experienced an overwhelming amount of love I've never felt on earth, ever. And it was, I still tear up when I talk about it, most beautiful experience I've ever had in my life. And that was a day that changed my life. Because I told myself, I don't think anybody knows that this exists. It was a place of just incredible beauty. There were colors there that aren't here. You had instant to all knowledge, everything. And everything was alive, and everything was just full of this amazing, beautiful, compassionate love that I had never experienced. And you might say, well, how do I know I wasn't making it up? I don't, but I have some guidelines that I live by as to how I think I wasn't making it up, because I never had the experience to make up something like that. It's not something I had no frame of reference to be able to imagine this. I never experienced something like this to know that it existed, to be able to make it up. And I honestly don't believe for myself that I could have just made up this experience, because I don't think it's the kind of thing you can comprehend unless you have experienced it, honestly. And that's, again, I'm not saying that I have any evidence for what I'm saying. I'm just telling you what the experience was and how it affected me. And I think it was real for me, and that it wasn't made up, because I wouldn't have had the ability. I would not have had the ability to make up something so beautiful that would have impacted me so deeply at such a young age. I realized that that's what I wanted to be. I said, you know, since 8 years old, I'd had a dream to sing, but fuck even singing. I want to become the love I felt here, and I want to share that with other people. How do I do that? I want other people to know this exists, because if they did, they would be happier. I want them to be able to have the experience I did, because people wouldn't be so sad and mean to each other. And I realized that at 14, and since that age, everything I've done up until now was to work to get to that point. I cannot say I'm there, and I cannot say I will ever probably fully get there, because I think life is like a progression. You know, it's the journey, not the destination. But I feel like all the experiences we have in our lives are trying to get us to this singular point of this ultimate beautiful love. And the thing is, you can say, yeah, but shitty things happen, so, and I get that, but I think the shitty things that happen are there to teach us and to test us, to find deeper compassion. And I think the deeper we go in compassion in ourselves, the more we're able to be loving to ourselves and other people. Like, the reason why fat comments don't bother me is because y'all don't know how much self-hatred I had about my body, how obsessive I was about my body. Y'all don't know, you didn't know that person. And gaining all this weight uncontrollably forced me to have so much compassion for myself that I never had before, a self-love I never had before, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful. Sorry, I got a little emotional, but if you guys want to know the heart of my spirituality, that is what it is. It was like, it was like if I had, and this didn't happen, but if I had died and gone to heaven and came back, and then I started researching other people's experiences, because I saw the one before, and it was textbook. The things I saw, experienced, and went through, hundreds and thousands of people had the same experiences. How are we all having the same experiences? So, I wanted to get that out of the way. Okay, now about my beliefs. What I just told you is my main belief. Everything else is conjecture. Everything else is possibilities. I'll tell you the things that I feel like are correct for me. These are tools I use to live my life. I absolutely believe in reincarnation. Can I prove it exists? Nope. But because of my spiritual experiences, it's something that I believe is there. Don't know if it's real. It's a belief for me. I love when people say, I believe in energy. I used to hear that with New Agers. Well, I have a deep belief in energy. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, science says everything is energy. Like, everything is molecules floating around. What are you talking about? I like the concept of seeing energy and seeing auras. I like the concept of that through intuition, through building that, some people have the ability to be able to experience things that are outside of these third dimensions. And science is more and more catching up with that. Quantum physics, I think, is taking huge leaps to kind of merging spirituality and science, which I think is amazing. Like, I'm a huge science nerd when it comes to stuff like that. I love the new theories and ideas and string theory. Like, I think these are all fascinating things. But quantum physics is what really, like, it literally gives me a scientific and spiritual boner. I fucking love it. I'm trying to think. I believe in karma, but everybody has I feel like a lot of people have different views on karma. I believe what you put in the world, you get back. But I also believe sometimes things happen that are out of your control, but that nothing is wasted. I believe we all chose to come here. We all chose who our parents were going to be, where to incarnate, and some of the experiences we would have. I believe there is a balance between predestiny or predestination or destiny versus free will and getting there how you want and making your own choices. It's almost like I feel like there's a loose-based guideline and plan, and certain people will meet, and then you get to fill in with a paintbrush, and you get to put the colors however you want and kind of change the direction of things. I believe every single person has a purpose on this planet, and it's about tapping into it and finding what it is. And there's no race and there's no rush. I still wonder what my purpose is, because I thought I knew what it was and what felt, and that's the funny thing. Sometimes what 100% feels right doesn't mean it's meant for you. So we'll talk about that more another day. But I believe at the core of every human being is a beautiful love like I experienced in that spiritual experience. And that through our experiences on earth, many of us get so fucking clouded that we lose sight of that, and we forget to feel that, and we forget that that is who we are, and that is home. That's why for me, the big lesson about having a shitty family is where I'm from, and my shitty family doesn't have anything to do with home. Home is literally in your heart. It's the center of love in yourself that connects you to everything. I believe love connects us to absolutely everything. I believe we are all connected. I believe people have the ability to build their intuition. I believe that human beings are much smarter and more capable than they realize. I believe that where there's a will, there's a way, and that the goal in life is to find positive loopholes over your limitations. Now let's get into some of the interesting stuff, like tarot card readings. I love tarot cards. Does that mean I think that it is real or scientific? Nope. I have fun with it. It's something I enjoy. If I'm feeling lost, I will do a little reading for myself. Do I take it too seriously? No. But it's something from my New Age days that I used to do a lot of, and it's something I enjoy. By the way, I'm not telling y'all to go out and get tarot cards. Don't think that. I'm just telling you these are things that I still enjoy. I brought up Ouija boards before. Would never do that again. Don't use that. I believe ghosts exist. I believe ghosts walk around among us. I believe they try to communicate. And sometimes we get it and sometimes we don't. Do I have any scientific backing for this? Absolutely not. These are beliefs. Just beliefs. I'm trying to think, like, it's funny. Okay, I believe, people ask me about, like, angels and stuff, because I've talked about that. Do I believe angels exist? I've gotten the critical thinking part. Here's what I think now. First of all, I would say this. I 1,000,000% believe aliens exist. like 1,000,000%. When it comes to something like angels, here's what I would say now. I don't know. Back then, 14 years ago, when I had an experience that was spiritual, I was so sure of myself. What I've gotten to now is I've said, do I actually have evidence of this other than my experience? No. It doesn't mean that I put my experience down. It doesn't mean my experience didn't shape me. It doesn't mean that it's not real to some degree or real for me. But how do I know this is real? I don't. I just know the effect and the impact it had on me. So I believe that there are unseen forces, good and bad, behind the scenes of these human lives that are either trying to dissuade us or help us. If you want to put the label demon or angel, you can. One thing I stopped doing when I left the New Age community, I stopped labeling things. I tried to look at things critically. So do I think there are these big winged beings that look like humans that, do these things? I don't know, but I do, honest to God, believe and feel and have had experiences that are real to me that just like there are good and bad people, when you die, energy doesn't die, it transforms, it transmutes into something else. And that as a result, there are, I feel like we are so arrogant to believe we are here, what we experience, that's it, it's over. That's so arrogant. Think about this. Before we could see cells with a microscope, you would tell somebody about cells in the 1200s and they would laugh at you. That's made up hocus pocus, or maybe back then that's magic. I think science is still catching up with spirituality. And I think over time, as it is being shown, we will start to merge the two. And that to me is incredibly exciting. Incredibly exciting, because I feel like that will be the time that we are able to continue to evolve as a human species towards a better and better place. If you ask my opinion on religion, I think some religion is very interesting. I think a lot of religion, like Christianity, and please don't get mad, I'm not knocking your religion, I'm telling you what I think. I think something like Christianity is more fairy tales, and I'm sure based on some truth. I feel like a lot of them are, but I also feel like there's a lot of truth to some of them. Like Hinduism, talking about the Vimanas and shit. I find that interesting. I 100% believe in UFOs. I believe I've seen them before. Not just me, but other people have had UFO experiences with me, around me, and separately. Now, do I believe the UFOs I've seen are aliens? Nope. I don't know. Do I want to believe that? Yes, but I don't know. And we're talking about, I've seen UFOs with people who are pilots, who were like, I know what flying is. That thing can't fly that low without having issues. I had a friend of mine that's a pilot that explained to me, who had seen what we think are UFOs, and explained to me, here's the situation, because I'm a pilot, I know how flying works, and some of the stuff we saw isn't how flying works, if that makes sense. I'm a believer that aliens visit people. I am. I don't have proof. Actually, there is some weird stuff over time science has come up with. I'll talk about this one day, but I can't say I actually have proof. I can't sit here and tell you I saw a UFO. I saw something that was an unidentified flying object to me that did weird things to me and my friends, in the sky and stuff. But what that is, I can't tell you. I think people, they always think UFO is alien, but remember, it's just an unidentified flying object. Doesn't mean it's alien. Shit, look at Area 51. Maybe they got, there's been a lot of reports of getting UFO spacecrafts and then back engineering them. Maybe a lot of what we're seeing is just fucking government. Who knows? What else? I'm trying to think if there's, any other weird stuff. I believe that everything is meant to be. Everything has a purpose. That nothing is wasted as long as you learn something. I believe the whole reason I'm coming to Earth is to learn things and try to be the best people we can be. To what end, I don't know. I don't claim to know. This is just what feels right to me. I think that's it though, right? I think. I think I covered everything. I'm sorry, this is a really long ass video. In the comments, if I left anything out or you have more questions about my beliefs, let me know. Another disclaimer, I'm not telling anybody what to believe. I'm not trying to influence you on what to believe. My beliefs are singular. They are my kind of conglomeration of what I like and dislike that I've seen over time, that I've picked up here and there. But that's just me. It's just me. I'm not, you know, I will say this, I don't believe in trying to, I really don't believe a lot in selling a lot of stuff spiritually, business-wise. I go back and forth on this one. I think it has to be done very, very carefully. You have a situation like Doreen Virtue, which don't get me started. Don't get me fucking started on her. I believe spirituality shouldn't be as much a business, but more about helping people at its core, because I feel like that's who we are, and that's what the love that is supposed to connect us all is supposed to be. I think that's it though. Leave comments if I've left anything out, if you have more questions. But yeah, these are my beliefs. Don't believe them because I believe them. You know, seek out what feels right for you. And really, what is spirituality but a set of tools that help you navigate the world? And that's what it is. It's my own thing. And people have wanted to know, so I wanted to share. A real important, I feel like it's important for people. Do I still believe in the Indigo children theory? The answer to that is I don't care. Like, it's not something I put stock into. Does that make sense? It's not like I don't care to label myself or anybody else ever. I like the concepts of it, but I think a lot of it's bullshit. But I like certain concepts of it. I don't label myself as such, and I don't intend to. I'm secure enough in my beliefs, I don't need a label anymore, if that makes sense. So, yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Leave a like if you did. If you didn't, dislike. It's all good. It all helps me in the end. Please leave a comment. I try to respond to my comments within the first couple hours, so the quicker you post, the quicker I'll probably respond, as well as it helps me in the algorithm. If you are new, please subscribe. Please click the notification button. I can't think. Here's the shitty part about that. You still might not get my content because YouTube doesn't always like me. So in that case, if you don't get my content, please check back. If you like my content, I upload typically 2 videos a day on Tuesday. On the weekdays, it's 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. I'll upload 2 videos, sometimes a third if I'm feeling up to it. Just check back. And otherwise, I think that's it. Okay. Thank you guys for watching. Again, leave comments if you have any questions at all. I will do my best to answer them, and maybe we'll do a follow-up video. Continue to be blessing yourselves and blessing others. Continue to try to find the joy and the sparkles of the bullshit in the world. I love you guys. I'll see you soon. Take care. Blessings. Mwah. And goodbye.